What's going on, everyone? My name is John with Value and Mortar, and I'm an economist. Today we're talking ETF investing. If you're new to investing, one of the easiest ways to get overwhelmed is by thinking you need to pick the perfect stock, the perfect entry point, and the perfect strategy right away. You don't. In fact, one of the biggest advantages regular investors have is the ability to keep things simple. That's where ETFs come in. ETF stands for Exchange Traded Fund. A fund is just a basket of investments. So instead of buying one company at a time, an ETF can give you exposure to many companies, or even bonds or real estate, in a single investment. Think of it like buying the whole shelf instead of just one item. You're not betting everything on one business. You're buying a group of investments together. Now, before we go further, quick disclaimer. This video is for educational purposes only. It's not financial, investment, tax, legal, or accounting advice. I'm just walking you through the framework I think beginners should understand. So, why do so many people start with ETFs? First, diversification. Diversification means spreading your money across different investments so one bad outcome hurts you less. If you buy one stock and that company struggles, your portfolio can take a real hit. If you own an ETF with hundreds of holdings, one company matters a whole lot less. Second, simplicity. A lot of beginners delay investing because they feel like they need to become mini Wall Street analysts. But with ETFs, you can get broad market exposure without spending hours digging through financial statements for every company. Third, cost. One important term here is expense ratio. The expense ratio is the yearly fee a refund charges as a percentage of your money invested. A lower expense ratio means more of your money stays working for you. That may sound small, but over many years, fees matter. Fourth, we have flexibility. ETFs trade on exchanges like stocks, which means they're easy to buy and sell in a regular brokerage account. This does not mean you should trade them all the time though. It just means they're accessible. Let's talk about the main kinds of ETFs beginners will usually come across. First, we have broad US market ETFs. These are funds designed to give you exposure to a large group of American companies. Some focus on the S&P 500, which is the 500 largest companies in the US, public companies. Others cover an even wider total market. These are usually the simplest core building blocks for a portfolio. A core holding is exactly what it sounds like. It's the main foundation of the portfolio, the part doing most of the heavy lifting over the long run. Second, we have international ETFs. These give you exposure to companies outside of the US. The idea here is geographic diversification. Geographic diversification means spreading your investments across countries, not just companies. Third, we have bond ETFs. Bonds are basically loans made to governments or companies. Bond ETFs are often used to add stability, income, or lower volatility to a portfolio. Volatility just means how sharply prices move up and down. Fourth, we have dividend ETFs. These are funds that focus more on companies that pay dividends. A dividend is a cash payment some companies distribute to shareholders. Beginners should understand that dividends can be useful, but yield alone should never be the whole strategy. Fifth are sector or thematic ETFs. These focus on a specific area like technology, energy, healthcare, AI, or another trend. These can be useful in smaller doses, but this is where beginners often start overcomplicating things. That brings us to the big question. How do you choose an ETF without getting lost? Here, the first thing I would look at is what the ETF actually holds. If you don't understand what's inside the fund, you should slow down. A good investment should be understandable. Second, look at diversification. Is the fund broad or is it concentrated? Concentration means a smaller number of holdings or heavier dependence on one sector or one idea. Concentrated funds can perform very well in some periods, but they can also create bigger swings when they go down. Third, look at the expense ratio. Again, this is the fund's annual fee. Lower fees are usually better, especially when two funds are giving you similar exposure. Fourth, look for overlap. Overlap happens when two ETFs hold many of the same companies. This is one of the most common beginner mistakes. People think they're diversifying by buying multiple ETFs, but sometimes they're just buying the same large companies in different wrappers. For example, if you hold one broad US ETF and then add another ETF that's also heavily weighted toward the same mega cap stocks, your portfolio may look more diversified than it really is. More funds does not always mean more diversification. Fifth, match the ETF to the job you want it to do. This is important. Do you want broad growth, more income, more international exposure, more stability? A fund should have a role in the portfolio. If you can't explain the role in one sentence, that's usually a sign to pause. Now, let me give you a simple educational framework for thinking about ETF portfolios. The easiest place to start is with the idea of core and satellite. Core and satellite just means you build around one or a few broad, diversified funds, and then if you want, you add smaller supporting positions around them. That's the satellites. The core is the stable foundation. The satellites are optional additions. For a beginner, the mistake is usually having too many satellites and not enough core. If somebody's just getting started, there's nothing wrong with starting very simple. Simplicity is not a weakness. It's often a strength. A portfolio does not become better just because it becomes more complicated. Another term you should know is asset allocation. Asset allocation means how your money is split across categories like stocks, bonds, and cash. This matters because your return potential and your risk level are heavily shaped by that mix. A more stock-heavy allocation usually has more growth potential, but also more downside volatility. A more bond-heavy allocation is usually steadier, but may grow more slowly. There's no one-size-fits-all answer. It depends on goals, time horizon, and risk tolerance. So what is risk tolerance? It's your ability to handle losses and volatility without panicking. And time horizon is how long you expect the money to stay invested. Those two things matter more than hype. Now, let's cover mistakes. Mistake number one, chasing performance. A lot of people buy the ETF that went up the most recently. That feels smart in the moment, but it often means buying after excitement is already high. Mistake number two is buying too many ETFs. Beginners sometimes own 5, 6, or 7 ETFs before they even understand what each one does. That's not always strategy. Sometimes it's just confusion dressed up as diversification. Mistake number three is ignoring the fees and overlap. Individually, these problems can look small. Over time, though, they add friction and reduce clarity. Mistake number four is treating long-term investing like trading. If your ETF strategy changes every week based on headlines, that's not usually a strategy. That's reaction. Mistake number five is not staying consistent. Consistency matters more than perfection for most people. A solid plan followed over time usually beats a brilliant plan that never gets executed. Now, this is also where dollar cost averaging can help. Dollar cost averaging means investing money at regular intervals, such as every week or every month, instead of trying to perfectly time the market. It can reduce the emotional pressure of making one big decision at the exact right time. And that matters because behavior is a huge part of investing success. A simple plan you can stick to is more valuable than an overcomplicated plan you abandon during volatility. So, if you're just starting ETF investing, Here's the real mindset I would want you to have. Keep it understandable. Keep it intentional. Keep it low cost. And avoid unnecessary overlap. Build around a clear foundation, then stay patient. You don't need to own every hot theme. You don't need 10 different funds just to feel sophisticated. And you definitely don't need to confuse activity with progress. The goal is not to build the most exciting portfolio. The goal is to build a portfolio that actually helps you create long-term wealth. If this video helped, subscribe to Valiant Mortar. On this channel, we break down investing, personal finance, and wealth building in a way that's practical and clear and strategic. This has been John with Valiant Mortar, signing off.